Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1, or should I say Stop and Go F2, because that's what we are here to discuss right now, the Formula 2 at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and it has been a very interesting weekend of Formula 2. The qualifying was as chaotic as the Formula 1 qualifying was, which led to quite an interesting grid. We'll get into all of that and more in just a little second. Before we do, remember to like and subscribe, and of course, a huge shout out to our lovely members: Dakota, the Joyous Jane from Myers, Simmons Strudel, Michael Johnson, Mr. Eurovision 1986, Philip Doganzik, No Edam on Sandwiches, Sarah Jowett, and Andy Jones. Let's get into the sprint then from yesterday, starting with Villa Gomez on pole, Dino Beganovic alongside him. Something that is worth noting as well, though, is that it's all change at the Trident team. Megatunif and Esterson are both out. Van Hoopen and Stenshorn are both in. A double driver change at the Trident team at a very, very late point in the season. Trident's currently sitting bottom of the team's championship, only scoring 2 points all season, but it looked like the change was already paying off. Martinius Stenshorn started this race in 4th for Trident, and as the race itself started, it was a dreadful start for Villa Gomez. He was then tapped by Marty and is out of the race in the first corner. Further on, we see that Ollie Gerfer was also tapped coming out of turn 2. He is out of the race as well. Dino Beganovic leads with Montoya behind him. Martinius Stenshorn up to 3rd place after all that madness in the first few corners. Of course, this does bring out the safety car. On a replay, we see that what really happened to Villa Gomez there was going into turn 1. It was 3 wide. Stenshorn on the inside, Marty in the middle, and then Villa Gomez out to the outside of the corner, and really they had no room. One of them wasn't going to make it, and that one was Rafael Villa Gomez. Marty also retires the car from here after having damage with that incident. Only Stenshorn made it through, and as I said, he was currently in 3rd place. Interestingly as well, behind the safety car, Alex Dunn is told by his engineer that the crash was caused by, and I quote, the usual people, which, when you're speaking to Alex Dunn, is rather ironic, I feel, but there we go. Safety car ends now on lap 5 of 21, and what we saw across many safety cars this weekend in Formula 2 is, of course, with that long straight that you have in Baku, you really do not want to be giving the person behind you that big slipstream, and with the entire queue behind you, the biggest slipstream you're going to give. So everyone wants to just go really, really late, and that's what Beganovic does, goes very late, and just gets away quite well. Was weaving a lot, but then it doesn't last long because Miney was forced into the wall at turn 2. Meanwhile, a Mini passes Fornaroli for P6 further down. Stenshorn is challenging Montoya for P2 and does get it with a really, really nice move into turn 3. Really good stuff on lap 7. Meanwhile, Crawford passes Fornaroli. Fornaroli just going backwards at this point. Not a great weekend for Fornaroli overall, and we'll get more into that in a little bit. Stenshorn, though, who was doing so tremendously well in P2, as I said, driving for Trident, his debut in Formula 2, Trident, who had scored 2 points all year. He was currently in P2, but then suffers an engine failure and is out on debut on lap 8. Meanwhile, Arvid Lindblad now is setting fastest laps and is up to 12th after starting 21st. A mix of a very bad qualifying for Lindblad and carrying over the penalties from the madness of the Italian Grand Prix. Like I said, though, with the F2 qualifying, very much like the F3 qualifying, the F1 qualifying, it was very much interrupted, so Lindblad a victim of that as well. It starts as a virtual safety car for Stenshorn's car, but does eventually go to a full course safety car. Alex Dunn reports a little bit of light rain, which we do see towards the end. Safety car ends on lap 13 of 21. Beganovic leaving it incredibly late yet again, but still does get past. He doesn't get past. It's Browning who gets passed by Alex Dunn for P3 on lap 13. Crawford passes Mini, but then Mini is able to get it right back. Browning passes Dunn again after Dunn has a big lock-up into turn 1 on lap 15. Then Dunn does go backwards a little bit, has a flat spot on his tyre, really starting to struggle. Mini gets past him for P4 on lap 16, and now was the point where it was changing between time limit and laps. We were cutting it fine, but I think we did get through on laps in the end. Browning passes Montoya for P2. Dunn gets past Mini again for P4. Crawford passes Mini for P5. So now Mini is the one starting to struggle towards the end of this race. Montoya, though, who's in P3, he's now going slowly. Another engine failure in the race. He's out on lap 19 of 21. Lindblad is up past Stanek for a top 10 finish. And Fornaroli gets P5 from Mini around the outside of turn 3. He even taps the wall on the exit of turn 3, but still gets the move done on the last lap. And as we cross the line, it's a first Formula 2 win for Dino Beganovic. Luke Browning, a very good P2. Alex Dunn completes the top 3. Crawford just missing out in P4. A good race from him, though. Our championship leader, Fornaroli, finished up in P5. Richard Verschoor in P6. Mini is 7th. Victor Martins in 8th. Joshua Dirksen in 9th. Arvid Lindblad completes our top 10 for the sprint. Let's go to the feature race, though, from this morning. Jak Crawford currently sits P4 in the championship. He starts this race on pole. World Championship leader Leo Fornaroli is alongside him. As for the other guys in kind of championship contention at the moment, second in the championship going into this race was Luke Browning. He started this race in 5th. Third in the championship was Richard Verschoor. He started this race down in 11th place. And as we start the race, Fornaroli is able to get up into the lead immediately into turn 1, and it goes from bad to worse for Crawford as Mini gets past him as well up to P2, although on the second lap Crawford is able to take that second place back. Stenshorn, yet again having a wonderful start here, is up 3 places. He's up to P4 on lap 2, but again for Stenshorn it all ends in tears as he is in the wall for the second race in a row whilst being in a high position. I mean, you know, we look at this, does bring out the safety car. The replays, unfortunately, don't really give a great image of what happened here. So him and Marty were going head-to-head, wheel-to-wheel, into the first corner. And when it first happened, I thought that maybe Marty had either hit him or forced him out wide to go into the barrier. But in the replays, it doesn't really look like he did. It maybe looks like it was just more of a mistake from Stenshaw, maybe braking a little bit too late. It's not massively clear, but it does just look like a racing incident to me. Either way, very upsetting for Stenshaw, who had come into this weekend, you know, come up from Formula 3 to Formula 2, did tremendously well in qualifying, did well in both races until, you know, obviously couldn't be helped in the sprint race. Here it could be helped maybe a little bit more. But, you know, positive signs for Trident nonetheless. Even though they walk away from this race again with 0 points, this is the best they've looked all year. So, you know, positive signs here for the end of this season, and who knows if Stenshaw will be sticking around into next year as well. Meanwhile, we do have a safety car, and the safety car goes through the pit lane as they clear away Stenshaw's car on the turn 1 exit, and this is when everyone just takes this moment to have a pit stop, and this massively changes up our order, because we go into this with Fornaroli in the lead, we come out of it with Mini in the lead, with Crawford in second, Marty in third, and Fornaroli falling from first to fourth. But, you know, that's what happens when you have to pit under safety car. Everyone's pitting at the same time. Everyone's blocking everyone. You've got to wait for that gap. Fornaroli missing out massively here, down to fourth. As safety car ends, yet again, Mini does go late, as we have come to expect. A lot of weaving from Mini as well, and there was a bit of an investigation into him as under the seeing if he'd done too much weaving and maybe left the weaving a little bit too late as well. I don't think we had a conclusion from that one, so that is one to keep an eye out of for later with the inevitable massive changes of the Formula 2 results hours after the race is actually finished, which always happens. Meanwhile, Dirksen gets past Beganovic for P6. Browning is off at turn 4. does manage to get it going again, back on track, but he is down in 21st place at this point. He would pit later, and from the camera that they showed, it looked like Browning was retiring the car, but he was out there later on. He was just a lap down. So Browning is pretty much out of the race at this point, but he was still out there. Crawford, though, takes the lead out of turn 16 on lap 8. Mini had a little bit of a lock-up going into the corner. Crawford had a fantastic exit and took the lead, but then goes on to that massive long straight, gives Mini the toe, and Mini is able to take the lead back almost immediately into turn 1, giving you the thought process of maybe it is the ideal move to have a bit of a mistake coming out of turn 6, to have that massive slipstream down into the first corner. It worked out for Mini here, although he wouldn't keep the lead for long. We'll get back to that in a little bit. Alex Dunn has a big lock-up coming out of turn 4, but manages to turn that lock-up into an overtake on Leo Fornaroli. That's on lap 9. Now on lap 10, Crawford takes the lead back. Almost an identical replay of what happened to him the lap before, uses that slipstream, takes the lead into turn 1 and goes from there. Now, a really weird instant here going into turn 1, because Fornaroli hits the back of Alex Dunn. Very luckily for both of them, they don't seem to have any major damage. I'd be shocked if Dunn didn't have any damage, because he did seem to struggle from here, and, you know, the rear end of the car was up in the air at one point. But Fornaroli seemed to get away with it from a damage point of view. Dunn goes into the runoff of turn 1 and manages to turn the car around and get back on the track, although he does fall from 4th to 9th at this point. Leo Fornaroli would get a 10-second time penalty for that incident, understandably. I mean, even on the radio, he's reporting, look, Dunn was braking so early. His engineer just went, look, we're going to get a penalty for that. Just keep on going. You know, they knew what was coming, for sure. Lindblad gets past Dunn for P9, then gets past Miney for P8 a couple laps later. Lindblad had some tremendous pace this weekend. You know, had some very good race pace. Obviously, unfortunately, started off badly, carrying the penalties over from the last time out in Italy, but also that interrupted qualifying session could never really get a good lap in from him. So unfortunately for Lindblad there, and you know, a lot of discussion at the minute on what's going to happen with the two Red Bull teams going into next year, and the discussion around Arvid Lindblad as well. And did he get the call up? Does he not? What's going to happen? For me, with Lindblad, if I was in charge of those teams, I'd give him another year in Formula 2. I don't think it's going to hurt in any way, and I think they've got a good group of 4 right now, with obviously Max and then Yuki, Hajar, and Lawson. I think they're a good 4. You know, obviously Lawson has had a difficult start to the year, but it's coming good now. I think he's had some really good races in the later half of the season. Obviously, Isaac Hajar is fantastic and doing incredibly well. And I think, you know, with the new cars that come in next year, I think and hope that the Red Bull will be an easier car to drive, just because they're starting from a more basic standpoint before trying to evolve it into some kind of monster that they've done this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Red Bull second driver can be a bit closer to Max next year, just because of the way the car will be set up from a starting position of the regulations. So if I was in charge of Red Bull, I'd keep everyone exactly where they are. Keep it Max and Yuki, keep it Hajar and Lawson in the Racing Bulls. Give Lindblad another year of Formula 2. It's not going to hurt him in any way at all. Get him some FP1 sessions in so he can drive the new cars, then look for 2027 for Lindblad to make his F1 debut. From that point of view, have him another year in Formula 2, because realistically, I think he can be a contender for Formula 2 champion. It's not gone his way this year, but, you know, we'll see how it happens next year, because I imagine Alex Dunn will still be here next year. And, of course, there's the rumour of Colton Herta, which, you know, it's not going to hurt to be driving wheel-to-wheel with a guy who's been competing at a high level in the IndyCar Championship either. So I keep Lindblad where he is. We'll see how it actually plays out from there for him. Meanwhile, Joshua Dirksen is on an absolute tear now, up to P3, passing Pepe Marti on lap 17, then passing Mini on lap 19 for P2. Joshua Dirksen, who had a fantastic race back in Monza, finished 3rd in the sprint, 2nd in the feature, Up to P2 here, chasing down Crawford for the win. I mean, unfortunately for Dirksen, this is fantastic form for him, but it has come a little bit too late. Nowhere near contention for the Formula 2 Championship, which you'd expect someone who, has got 3 podiums in the last 4 races. You'd think, well, for sure, they'd be up there, but, the races before Italy, I mean, I think he won the first sprint race of the year, but between then and now, there hasn't really been too much. Then the Italian Grand Prix has happened, and something has awoken inside Joshua Dirksen. But, again, hopefully he'll be here next year. We'll see what he can do. But yeah, this is great form for him to close out the season, currently in P2. Meanwhile, Fornaroli passes Marti for P4. Villagomez loses 2 places in 1 corner, one to Arvid Lindblad and over to Alex Dunn. They're up to 7th and 8th and are battling between themselves now. Great little fights between those two for P7 on lap 20. Leo Fornaroli passes Gabriele Mini for P3. Mini once again, much like in the sprint race, just really falling off of that pace towards the end of the race. Was leading the race at one point, really didn't have the pace to battle at the end. Dunn and Lindblad are battling again now for P7, but Alex Dunn locks up goes up into the runoff area of turn 15, falls from 8th to 18th. Then, a lap later, has an identical off and just retires the car. We see him sat in a little camping chair watching on for the rest of the race. That's what makes me think that maybe there was a bit of floor damage or something from that incident between him and Fornaroli. To make a mistake like that 2 laps in a row makes you think that maybe there was something wrong. I'm sure we'll find out eventually. Meanwhile, lap 25 and 29, the closing stages of this race, and Joshua Dirksen is within DRS of Jak Crawford, and it's a beautiful battle between them here. You'd think with the pace that Dirksen has showed, with the DRS that he has, with how that straight is, the long straight, that huge slipstream, you'd think it would basically be over for Crawford, but there is some fantastic defensive driving from him to maintain the lead, and as we cross the line, Crawford does take the win. A fantastic win for him, up to P2 in the championship now. In these closing stages, Joshua Dirksen just 0.2 of a second behind Crawford for P2. Bogdanovic is in 3rd, Mini in 4th. Leo Fornaroli crossing the line in 3rd, but with that 10-second time penalty, gets pushed down to 5th. Marti is 6th. Lindblad, a very impressive 7th from 21st on the grid. Villagomez is 8th. Richard Verschoor in 9th. And Sebastian Montoya completes our top 10. That is Formula 2, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. I think we only have 2 more race weekends left of the championship, and you know what, I really don't know which way it's going to go. Leo Fornaroli still leading at this point, but Crawford has been incredibly impressive. You still have Luke Browning, who obviously did not have the best weekend this weekend, but could still be in there. I think Verschoor is still on the margins there, and you never know with Formula 2. You could see all of them DNF over the next few races, and Alex Dunn picks it up. So who knows what's going to happen as we close out the Formula 2 season. But of course, I'll be here to discuss all of it with you when it happens. I'll be here to discuss all things F1 later on today. My goodness. I hope to see you there. Until then, have a good one. I'll see you later. Goodbye.